So this is highly requested by a lot of people, how to make some funny faces in Lens Studio. So you can, you know, make a funny face and then show it off to all your friends. By the end of this video, this will give you enough to tormenting all your friends, such as I have done. So first off, this is assuming that you've installed Lens Studio. If you haven't, it's freely available. I'm going to post a link. It's available for Windows and Mac. So just pick which version you need. I believe Windows, you have to be on Windows 10, which nearly everyone is nowadays, so that shouldn't be a problem. So you install it and then you open it up, and this is what you get right here. And this is the opening screen. So you got new project, open project, and then my lenses, which you push on it, and it's going to give lenses that you've published, which my internet sucks, so it's taking forever and ever. And then also you can get stats. You drop that down, like this one I just randomly published yesterday. So it's been viewed 445 times, scanned 9 times, and then someone's shared something made with it 30 times. And then you can share, and this will give you a URL if you want to copy. But that's what that does. So let's close that up. So up here is your recent projects, and then down here you have templates to go through, which just starting out, poke through these templates. They're really good starting points to get you going. There's one in here. This one, the sunglasses one. If you want to mess around with adding glasses, this is a really good starting point. Segmentation. So if you want to do one that removes the background, this is a really good starting point. But I want to save all that for other video. So we're going to do a new project, because this one we're just going to be doing the basics, and we're going to make some funny faces. So here's the window you get when you open up. This may look like, oh no, what's going on? But it's, hopefully by the time the video is done and you play around with your first project, it'll all make sense. So it's not too bad. So right here, this is your preview window. So this is what's happening. Whatever you do, it's going to show here. So this gives you a preview of what's happening as you're working on it. Up here, it's pretty self-explanatory. Image, video mode, so you can switch between. This is just a picture now, and it's not going back to video mode. Well, I'll show you how to switch it. Webcam mode, if you want to use your webcam. It's kind of dark in here, so I'm not using mine. But you come up here, and then this is where you can actually pick it. So since we're going to go back to video, you can actually pick, if you add your custom ones, they're up here. So you can go to add new, and this is where if you add a custom one, they show up. But you can pick any of these pre-installed ones. So let's just do that one. Okay, she's very happy to be there. Switch around front to back camera. So if you're doing a world lens, this is where you kind of preview what's going on with it. So let's go back. Down here is, this button doesn't show up till you do this. So you can simulate, so if you want to see how it's going to look on Snap Camera for the desktop, or you can pick a, roughly a phone model. The G6 is probably going to be standard for nearly every phone outside of the iPhone X, since iPhone X had to add the extra notch up there. But then you can also see if you have elements that maybe you're gonna has interaction to it, then you can see if it's going to be in the way of the carousel. But for the face stuff, we don't need to do that, and we're just going to do without simulation, so that we got that. And then down here you can mute the sounds, like if you have sounds going on, record a clip of what's going on in here, or capture a screenshot. But that's this part. We're going to come up to this top bar at the end, because that's not important to us right now. The inspector is going to be where all your settings and sliders are for things that we're working on, which will make sense here in a minute. This one right here is consider this your little work window of what's going on. Right now it's just 3D space, because we have technically nothing going on. It's just the blank slate. So there's nothing there. But you can move it around. You can see the camera and lights, which that's more to do with 3D objects, which we don't have to worry about with what we're doing. So we're just gonna, doesn't matter where we actually leave this right now. So we come over here. Down here in resources, this is going to be everything to do with the project you are working on. If you have 3D models, pictures, video, music, or audio, not music, audio files in general, they're all going to be down here. And then you go to add new, and then you get all these options, which again we're going to go over later. It's going to be too much for this one. Now this is where, consider this like the layers of your project. For something like this, we're going to leave the lighting. Just leave the lighting alone. And then you have your basic camera. Now there's multiple camera types, and again we'll do another project, do more with that, but for this project we don't need it, so we're going to keep it simple. And then this is where you can change it to layers mode. This one's called default mode, and then render order mode. That's again, something a little more complicated. We'll save for another video. So we're just going to default mode for this. Okay, so let's start diving in this. So when you add new, this is all the things you can do within Lens Studio. And again, this looks overwhelming because there's a lot you can do. This is, cat tracking, dog tracking, hand tracking, body tracking, marker tracking, location track, just everything. But for what we want is just the face effects for this one. So you can change eye color, the face mask, which is where you can basically like a face swap, but you can do a lot more with it. Face stretch, so you can squish someone's head. Face image is literally just putting an image that tracks with the face, and again, I'll show that later. Instances just for example, like maybe a mustache, something like that. Face liquify is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to give you the bulge and pinch effect, and then face retouch is going to blur it all to hell so it makes you look pretty. Face insets, where you can insert different parts of the face, which we're going to use later on. And then head binding, if you add an object to the scene, such as like a 3D hat, or box or whatever, but you can add the head binding, and then that way it'll attach to the head and rotate with the head, and that's how you do like earlier, the hat. But for this, let's start off with a face stretch. So see, right here in Expector, you can see that the settings already popped up, and nearly everything you do is going to add this transform, and for this, just leave this alone. We don't need it. But what we're going to do is we're going to start messing around. So this is pretty self-explanatory. You got these points that are going to edit this 3D mesh that's going to change the way that the face looks over there. A few things that you don't have to do, but this is going to help you later on figuring things out. For example, I want to drag this top part of the head down just to squish the head. Now I could go point by point by point, and I'm going to get confused later on. So instead, what you do, you start clicking these points, and I'm not holding down shift or control or nothing. So you just left click on these just one time till they turn solid color, and I'm just going to pick some random ones to where the point, like I'm just going to pick a few in the eyes and then right here by the ear. So that way now I can select and drag these. If I don't do that, you can't select them. So I'm going to select all these, and then that way I can drag the whole thing down as far as I want. Now I can just keep going, but then see, it starts getting a little crazy. I don't want to go that far. I just want a good head squish, maybe like that. Now another little trick when you're working with this, once you select these dots, they're selected. But for example, and what you can do is hold down spacebar, and see, you get that little hand so you can smack them. But what that little hand does is allows you to grab and drag this around so you can navigate through your workspace, and then zoom in and out with your scroll wheel. But we're going to come here to the lips. I don't really want the lips distorted like that. I mean, if I was actually doing this in the lens, I probably would, because it actually looks pretty funny. But to show you this, so since we haven't touched these control points, if I click one, it starts to snap back to its original shape. So that way let's see. So see, now we got a normal mouth again, because it snapped back to the normal shape without the distortions that happened when we smashed it down. Which there's a couple ways you can avoid the whole face being distorted. This actually down here is symmetrical mode. If you turn this off, what this will do, instead of moving all the points as you've seen before, because it actually mirrors left and right. So as long as this is on, if I move a point, let me zoom out a little bit. If I move a point on the left, it also moves on the right, and it also kind of moves, the ones near it, so that way it's kind of proportionate. But say you didn't want that, you can uncheck this, and then now I can freely move this one without affecting anything else. So you can get some real Picasso things going on, which, see, I don't really want that for this, but that's what that does. And then also, if you find that you just oh no, I want to back out of what I've done, you can hit reset points and it pops you back to normal. But we're going to go back to this because we actually want this. Now another thing to keep in mind, it's probably a good time to explain this. One thing, and I'll show this later, this face index, wondering what this is. This is how you choose the person. You can have more than one person that this works on. So for example, let's say we go to this one. On 0, it's choosing the first person that it recognizes, which in these previews is almost always the person on the left. But if you change this to 1, it's going to switch to the second person it recognizes, and so on and so on. So you go 2, and see now it recognizes no one, because this is actually expecting the third person in the shot. It starts at 0, so you just bump that up. So if you want to do like the same thing for multiple people, you just duplicate this and leave one at 0, which is the first face, and then you just bump this up to 1, and then it'll go to the second face, and then just keep going from there. Don't try to do too many, because realistically you're not going to get too many people in portrait mode or even landscape mode. I think the most I've ever done is 12, and that was for a face swap one I did. But anyways, that's what that does. This feature 0, this is actually a slider that lets you adjust the amount that the distortion's happening. So if you actually go to 0, it's as if the distortion's not happening at all. And this helps because if you want to script in, when mouth opens, go crazy, that's where you can do that. Or you can just simply adjust, maybe you want a little bit more to happen with it. But as you can see, it's starting to really push outside of normal bounds because it pushed the warp and actually duplicated the mouth. Or you can go in reverse, which sometimes actually gives you a unexpected desired effect by going reverse. Because since we shrunk it, it actually now stretched it. But for this, we're going to go back to 1. Now, what you can do is when you add a feature, you add a whole new face warp or face stretch. And what happens is anything you do with this one is going to apply also to the one before it. So I'm going to go back to a single person. So we already have this one that we squashed the top part of the head down. But now, and I'm going to add some features. So instead of trying to do a ton of warps on or a ton of the stretches on one, what you want to do is do little adjustments on multiple ones, and that way they don't get over distorted, which some of my earlier lenses, that's actually why they look the way they look. I didn't ever consider this, and I just took one and just, I'm gonna just smush it all in. Oh yeah, let's just smush everything in, which is fine if you're going for that look. But if you want something a little more subtle, let's bring this back up. What you can do is make small adjustments on individual stretches. So let's see. We're gonna let's bring out the cheekbones. Let's bring out very surprised. And then let's bring in the mouth a little bit. And then we're gonna leave the chin like that because that's kind of funny. And then let's give her a big head, really big head. There we go. So I'm pretty happy with this. And you can play with this ooh. And again, this slider, it's really fun if we could totally link this slider to open eyes and close eyes and but some might actually do that. So the next thing we can do, the next thing we should do is save it. Always save your work. So we're going to label this tester 2, because it's actually, I already did one and messed up. So this is number 2. So now we have this saved. And again, I can't stress enough, and no matter any software, because Lens Studio is pretty stable, but in any software, just save it. And then Control S it all the time. So we've got this, which one thing I want to do is I want to make the eyes a little bigger. There's a couple ways we can do that. Either one is we could go and insert an inset, and then with the inset, again, you get all these options. Same with the face index. Since we're doing it on the first person, we're going to leave this at 0. Change this to left eye, and then we can bring it up, and I could do like this, and then rotate it, and it hiccuped. See, I could rotate it. We could do this. And then what you can do is just come in here and duplicate it. And then I'm going to come in here and do right eye. And then what I'm going to do is flip it. Oops, I didn't want to flip it. I want to rotate it. And then, as you can see, this is actually a pretty new feature, or at least that I've noticed, is there's these automatic guides that kind of help you. So this dot that it's snapping to would be the same place on this side of the face as it is over here. And then you can see the line in the middle that says that it's lined up. So now it's perfectly lined up and even across both sides. So it makes that really easy. So now we have big eyes. Now since we're dealing with these insets, one thing to mention is what the rest of these settings do. Obviously this one flips it horizontally or vertically, so like up and down. So now it's upside down, which, you know, we could actually do to both of them, so that's actually kind of funny. There, that's terrible. Just the way we like it. And the rest of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. Alpha is going to, you know, visible to not visible. The blend mode, if you've ever dealt with Photoshop or GIMP or any graphics application, it's the exact same. So you can change it to overlay. Oops, I don't want that. Oh my gosh. Color dodge. But all this stuff, you know, doesn't work for what we're doing because then it becomes see-through, which we don't want. So we're going to go back up to normal. Now down here with the source texture, for doing these, the normal face stuff, just always leave this at device camera texture. Device camera texture is the original starting video. Like, it's unaltered, it's just your face without any of the distortions. And that's where you want to pull that from, because, and you can change that. But like I said, for starting out, and we're going to go more into that in another video. But if you click on here, you can change it. But just leave it on device camera texture, because that's just plain, very plain video, and that's what you want. The outer radius and inner radius is so you can adjust the feathering on it. So see, like when I drop that down, there's almost no feather. It's just purely, I want to actually bring this up here so we can see it a little better. Now it's just a very solid outline, which gives me this part down here. I'm just going to kind of skip over some stuff. The subdivision count. This adjusts how many angles on that there are. So the more, the smoother, but also can make the, you know, make the lens run a little slower because you're adding a whole bunch more mathematic to it. So leaving that on the default just in the middle is fine, because you can smooth it out with this feathering, which that's the outer, and then you can feather the inner. So you find a good balance where if you want to mix in really well, so see now it actually blends very nicely in with the forehead. You know, it actually like kind of convincing. That's not where we want it, but we want it over here. And then the source scale and the UV offset are kind of the same in different things. So the source scale is if you wanted to zoom in on that part. So say I tell it 1.5, 1.5. It actually, you can't tell because I messed with this, but it actually zoomed in on the eye. So let's see, let's do, oh wait, no, it's shrinking because I'm doing it the wrong way. So let's do 0.5. There we go. See, it zoomed in. So 1 is the standard that you're going to use for most things. But you can zoom in by going a low number, or you can zoom out by going a higher number. Like that. And the UV offset, it doesn't scale it. What it does is it moves it around. So see, we're going, I believe that's actually left, but since we're upside down, it's right. Or we can go up and down. Okay, so that's all we're going to do with that. And I'm actually not even going to keep these because we're going to do something else. So if you're something in the project that you don't want to keep, you can choose the parent, which is the one topmost. Like if you click the drop down, I don't know how that happened, but it's possessed. You can just delete the parent. So that way we're stuck with just our face stretch. So what I want to do though is I want to make the eyes bigger, but we're going to use Liquify. I'm going to show you two things with this. One, there's this way, which can cause problems, and I'm going to show you the other way. So you get these two right here, which when you click on one, again, you get the same set. The head binding, this is what face it's going to apply to. So again, we're on only the one face, so we're going to leave that 0. And attach point is to the left eye by default. But the problem with this is, as you can see, since we did our face stretch, it's not on the eye. Our eye moved. It's not there no more. So you got to find the eye. So we're going to come down here and center that on the pupil. And then again, Lens Studio helps us by, it gave us that guide that, okay, if you put it right on that dot, it's going to be in the same place on that side. So we can just drop it there. And then what we can do is, go bigger, smaller. Let's go a little bigger, 370. So I'm going to come over here and just do 370. So they're the same. And then make sure, drag it away and just pop it back on that dot to make sure. Now this way works. The only problem I've ran into doing this is because since it's attached to a custom point and not tracking the eye no more, because it's actually tracking a spot based upon our face stretch, is that since there's different facial structures, it doesn't always come out the same. Which most of these do. But like when you get someone, especially like someone a lot younger, like we're basing it off of an adult face right now. So you get someone a lot younger, it'll be way offset. Now this one's pretty safe because we did a really large radius on this. So, it's covering a large area. So I think that's actually okay. But there's another way to do it. I'm not going to get rid of that. But I'm going to, if you select over here, you can, as you can see, turn it on and off. And if you leave that off, when you actually publish the lens, it'll be off in the lens you publish as well. So you can leave it in the project if it's something that you wanted to come back to later, just disable it. But what we're going to do, we're going to add another Liquify. And the reason why we're doing this too is also to show this. So everything works in order from top down. So the further as you go up, it goes behind. So whatever's on the bottom is going to be on the front. So with that in mind, we're going to click and drag this new Liquify before our face stretch. Now if you noticed, it made the eyes big. But see, this is actually tracking the eyes before the face stretch. So then I can tell this left eye, and I don't know why this says custom, but right eye. So we can tell that left eye and right eye, and it's going to stay on there because this is happening before the face stretch. So see, if I remove the face stretch, it's the same. So that's something that you can keep in mind. Why? I didn't know I could even do that. Let's see. That one's, let's just give this a good round number of 3.97. 3.97. So see, it's almost getting the same effect. I actually prefer this one a little bit more, but this one is going to guaranteed be tracking to the eyes. So it's going to, no matter the person's face, it's going to track to the same because it's actually tracking to the eyes and not the stretch version. So this is the overall basics of making a funny face. So now, just to finish this off, we're going to go through what all this stuff up here does. So obviously, and I purposely did it to show, most of this stuff up here, you don't have to worry about. This one is if you want to turn on the overlay, which again, like face distortion stuff, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're just working on something where you're going to have buttons or something to interact with, then this way you can see, get an idea where you're working, where that's going to be. So we don't have to do that. This one up here, let's see, I forgot what this one does, but you don't need it for face distortion. The magnet one, I leave it on because that's what's going to help you. When we drag it away, it's what gives you those points to help attach to. Because if you turn this off, see, nothing. So with it on, then we know, boop, it's nice. But if there's something you need to make a very fine-tuned adjustment, then you might want to turn that off. And then this is disable symmetrical mode, which, as we showed earlier, that allows you to do something on the left and it mirrors over to the right. And then reset view and then isolate selection. That's all to do with, like I said, you really don't have to do that stuff with this, and that's why I'm purposely trying to keep this simple. Now up here, this is where you test it you can send it to your phone and test your lens out. Now if you're just starting out, this is going to ask you to pair your device, which is really easy. You just click on it, it's going to give you a snap code. Just scan it with Snapchat, and then you'll pair your Snapchat with Lens Studio. So that when you push this button, like say if I push it, it's going to send it to my device so I can test this lens out. Okay, so now I have it on there. So that's how you can easily test out your lens, which I highly recommend you test it out with the real world. But the models in here, your lens will work flawlessly on. And then when you get to the real world, when the twisting and moving and sometimes just the different quality of the cameras on the phones, you pick up a couple mistakes that, you don't see in the preview, because these previews are really good, so it's good to test your lens out. Now to this stuff up here, this is your overall size of your project, which if you're just doing the face distortion stuff, the size really isn't going to change, but you have to keep your project size under 4 megabytes, which again, this isn't going to change it much. When you start adding pictures, videos, 3D objects, all that stuff, that number goes up really quick. So you have to really keep an eye on it once you start doing that. But that's what this is. And it tells you, like, awesome, because, we're really low, so we don't have nothing to worry about. Now you come up here to project info. This is the stuff that's going to be seen when you publish your lens. So we're going to name it tester. Wait, yeah, I did call it tester 2. And then I come over here, works on both cameras. You can choose only front, only rear. We want both cameras. And then this is where you can add a hint. So for something like this, you really don't need a hint. There's a, find face. Or, if you're doing one that open mouth, pick a photo, but this is just a hint. This actually does nothing for the functionality of it. Now over here, this is a pretty new feature. Before, you had to make your own preview and upload it, but now they've added this feature that'll make us a preview using one of those existing videos that are available for testing right here. So what we can do is just come in here and pick one, and then it's going to take a couple seconds to a minute, depending on how fast your computer is, but it's going to actually make us a preview. So if you like it, then great, or if not, you can remove. But then we're going to hit apply. And then now come down here and choose your icon. This is where you can draw an icon. What I do, I can't draw. I really suck at drawing. So what I do is I just come down here and I click this little picture here and then save it. This obviously isn't for this one, but you just save it, and then that way, when it's in the lens carousel, they can see, oh yeah, it was this one. So I'm just save it, and then as you can see, it's not the right one. I should have did the right one, but for the sake of this. But that's how you do that. So then you just hit apply, and then the only thing you have left is come up here to publish. And then again, my internet sucks, so we're going to be waiting forever. You're going to do community lens, and then this is where you can add some tags to help search it. So I'm just going to add funny, but you can add quite a few tags. You just do one word tags, no spaces, and then when you're done with that, and then this is the preview that was added before. This section I think is still here because this is, you used to have to upload the preview here, but you don't have to do that no more. We did that in project info. And then you just hit submit, which I think I submitted one earlier. No, I didn't. Okay, so you hit submit. And as you see, it'll say in review. And then it'll eventually say live. Now, one thing good to do is don't use copyrighted materials. You'll just get rejected. So just as long as you don't use copyrighted stuff, seeing that's live, so that means I can use it now. So it takes it a minute to actually show it everywhere else, but you could take this snap code or this link and share it or use it yourself. And what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to do not promote, which the do not promote means that it's only available through the snap code and the link, because this is just a tester one, so I don't want to mostly because the picture ain't right. I'm using that picture, so people are going to get mad at me. But so hopefully this is giving you enough to make your first lens. I'd love to see what everyone's creating. So if you want, just share it to your story on Snapchat and tag me at Kriptk, or you can feel free to send it to me. If enough of you make them, I'd love to do a showcase of all your creations. Hopefully this helps, and then keep a watch out. I'm going to be doing more videos soon. Bye.